Hello there, YouTube. It's your boy B3 back with another kicking, you guessed it, graphic novel review. It's kind of an omnibus, but not really. Batman Eternal, Volume 1 from 2014, and this title also ran into 2015, but from 2014. Batman Eternal is one of my favorite Batman comics of all time. It is incredible in every way. It's a book that constantly keeps you guessing. It's a book that's not predictable. If this would have been a monthly comic that was the main Batman run, it would be considered one of the best Batman runs of all time if this was the main Batman title. But this was a weekly supplemental book. DC was experimenting with weekly books for a while. They had like Earth 2, Earth's End, or whatever it was called. They had Future's End, I think is the other one. I've read the Earth 2 one. I haven't read Future's End. But there was also Batman and Robin Eternal, which I heard that and Future's End weren't great. The Earth 2 one I thought was good, though. But this one is the one that was so good, they had to try to keep doing it. You know, Scott Snyder, Tim Seeley, James Tynion, Kyle Higgins, Ray Fox, like these are the big names. Scott Snyder and James Tynion are some of my favorite comic writers of all time, dude. Really great stuff. This is a weekly title, so it has a huge creative team because it needed a lot of people working on comics in order to pump it out. So each issue has like different artists and stuff. And they all do a good job. They all do an excellent job. And Snyder's writing, Scott Snyder and team on this book, it's an incredible mystery. All the best Batman stories are mysteries, you know? Hush, Long Halloween, and Batman Eternal. I actually think Batman Eternal is criminally underrated. A lot of people didn't read it because it was a weekly book, and I get that. That's hard to afford. It truly is. That is not affordable. I could not read a weekly comic, especially with comic prices what they are now. I got these as physical trades, and then a while back when they were $1.99 for Black Friday, I got the digital versions. This is one of those comics that's so good I have a physical and a digital version of it. Yes. And I only do that with my favorite comics of all time, like All-Star Superman and things like that. Really, truly, it's incredible. So, let me read you the back of the book. They call him the Roman. That's a spoiler. Immediately. His reveal is a big deal in this, but on the back of the book immediately tells you. Once he ruled Gotham City. Then, a new wave of criminals and crime fighters, costume freaks, and cape vigilantes pushed him out. Now, Carmine Falcone has returned, determined to rebuild his empire and bring Gotham back to the time before the Bat. A criminal heyday of dirty cops, untouchable mobsters, and bullets in the streets, Falcone is starting an all-out gang war in Gotham, and even the police are on his side, targeting Batman rather than criminals. Worst of all, Jim Gordon is locked away in Blackgate Penitentiary, set up to take a fall in a devious plot. Soon there won't be a cop or cape in Gotham powerful enough to stop the Roman. But this war is only the beginning. Deep beneath Gotham's surface, a profound evil stirs, and even the world's greatest detective might miss the clues pointing to a plan far larger than one crime lord. A conspiracy that could involve every villain Gotham's ever faced. At least in New 52 continuity. Batman Eternal Volume 1 collects the first 21 issues of the epic weekly series masterminded by New York Times bestselling writer Scott Snyder and close collaborator James Tynion IV. Co-written by Ray Fox, John Layman, and Tim Seeley, and featuring stunning art by Jason Fabok, Dustin Nguyen, Gillum, March, Michael Jan, Andy Clark, Trevor McCarthy, Emmanuel Simoni, Riccardo Bucciarelli, and Ian Bertram. Batman Eternal is a must-read Batman event. And I agree. It is a must-read, especially now that it's collected. I mean, it was collected years ago, but I'm just now reviewing it. And this is one of my favorite Batman stories of all time, hands down. We see a lot happen. A new cop comes to town, and he looks like a young Jim Gordon. In fact, he looks so much like a young Jim Gordon. I remember the first time I ever read this, immediately upon laying eyes on him, thinking he was Jim Gordon Jr., known psychopath, but he wasn't. He wasn't. Or is he? No, he's not. He is another cop from Chicago. Oh. Yeah, his name is Jason Bard. And Bullock meets him and picks him up. While Batman and Jim Gordon are both fighting Professor Pig. And I gotta say, Professor Pig in pretty much any comic not pinned by Grant Morrison just doesn't feel like Professor Pig. Pig is one of those characters where it's like people were almost afraid to write Pig as deranged as Morrison did when they created him. Really and truly, I think Morrison was Pig's creator, but no one has the balls. Pig is insane, and it never feels like anyone who writes Pig other than Morrison just has the balls to go all out with him. I hope that's not a problematic thing to say. Anyway, Jim Gordon and Batman chase criminals down the subway tunnels. Batman takes Pig, and then, of course, Gordon goes for the lackeys. Now, one of these men is standing in front of an electrical box by the subway tracks. Jim Gordon has a gun on him. This man puts his hands up so Jim Gordon won't shoot. Jim Gordon asks him to drop his gun. The man says he's not holding a gun. Jim Gordon sees a gun in his hand, and Jim Gordon fires his gun at the culprit, not aiming for the man himself, but aiming for his gun. The bullet reaches the firearm and passes directly through it. The gun is an illusion. The bullet hits the electrical box. It explodes. And the incoming train derails. Many people in the subway, passengers and bystanders, lose their lives. And it all appears to be Commissioner Jim Gordon's fault. And Jason Bard, on his first day, has to arrest the man that called him in. What a first issue. Wow. Later we find out that that electrical box isn't one that should have been connected to the rails. That this was all clearly engineered to take down Jim Gordon. They made him hallucinate so that he'd hit the electrical box, but the electrical box had been connected to things that it wasn't supposed to be connected to in order to make the situation so much worse. So now, Jim Gordon is in jail. Jail. Awaiting trial. You know, jail isn't the best place for a commissioner to be, especially one that works with a vigilante. It's a good way to get killed. Luckily, a detective is in town to help. That detective is Jim Corrigan, aka the Spectre. But we also see ghosts in Arkham Asylum. They kind of create Dr. Phosphorus, and we hear the name Blackfire, as in Deacon Blackfire, the cult leader, and now Ghost. Great. We also see Catwoman flirting with Batman, and they eventually find out that Falcone is back. And, Catwoman has unfinished business with him. There are some things in this book that have the wonky New 52 continuity, because remember the New 52 happened, nobody knew what was and wasn't in continuity, including DC themselves, it seemed. So there's a lot of stuff from year one in this. You have the claws on Falcone's face, where Catwoman scratched him, which I believe was year one. But the long Halloweeny stuff, where she thinks she's his daughter and whatnot, that's not here. She knows damn well who her father is in the New 52, and it is not Falcone. Interesting. Anyway, we then get to Stephanie Brown. This is the book that brings Stephanie Brown back into DC continuity, giving her a new origin, because she's not supposed to be at her dad's house. She shows up. She walks in on a meeting she wasn't supposed to see, with her dad, Clue Master, alongside other villains like Signal Man and whatnot. And then an unseen villain knocks her out, and later they say, "Hey, why don't we kill her? Clue Master, you kill your own daughter, that proves your loyalty, doesn't it?" Yeah, but she does escape, luckily. We also have Major Forbes, a policeman on the unit who butts heads with Bullock, and Maggie Sawyer, a Sapphic icon. It's weird seeing her here and not in Metropolis. I'm used to seeing her in Metropolis. We see the Penguin going crazy. He doesn't know Falcone's back in town. He kind of wrestled everything away from Falcone back in the day. So a gang war is about to erupt between Penguin and the Roman, and it is not going to be pretty. But now that Gordon is out of commission, the corrupt mayor and corrupt Major Forbes, who's kind of become commissioner, are now fully focused on Batman. Taking out Batman is the only thing the police department is for. They're not allowed to even arrest gangsters. It's super duper duper corrupt. We see Jim Gordon's trials and whatnot not going well. He gets denied bail, and has to go to Blackgate Prison to wait his manslaughter trial. And Batgirl is running around knocking the shit out of everyone, including Batman, trying to find evidence that Jim Gordon is innocent, which of course he is. But they have to prove that. But Batgirl's not thinking super duper clearly, so Batman asks Red Hood to tag along and be the voice of reason. Red Hood, the voice of reason. That is how you know things are bad. Yikes. Jim Gordon gets a cellmate named Leo, who will become important down the line. We see Red Robin doing lots of super genius computer stuff. Red Robin, Tim Drake, and he's not really working with Batman. The Bat family still isn't working together because this is still pretty recently after death of the family, where the Joker made everyone lose trust in Batman. Yeah, but you see he and Tim start to kind of patch things up, and Batman Eternal kind of ends with the family coming back together in a way. We see Harper Row doing her vigilante thing with her taser and whatnot. She does end up running into Red Robin, but also a nanite virus that makes people sick and infects them. Hooray. There's so many things happening. You have this plot against Gordon. You have the Roman. You have the nanites. The Roman extends into the gang war. You have Blackfire coming to life and all this supernatural stuff happening. And every single one of these things is beautifully connected. You won't see it for a while, but it is. So Batman has to help Batwing defeat Gentleman Ghost, who I'm not used to seeing in black. I like him in the spooky white. But Batman sends Batwing. This is the second Batwing after the first one didn't take off. Get it? Take off, he can fly. This is the Fox Batwing. But he sends him with the Spectre because Batwing doesn't believe in all this supernatural stuff, and he kind of needs to learn it, but he can also support Spectre with tech stuff that the Spectre doesn't know about. And it turns out, under Arkham Asylum, everything is being run by the Joker's daughter, a character that a lot of people liked. I never did. I thought she had an ugly character design. I thought she was stupid. It just felt like a way that writers could try to have someone jokery around without using the Joker. Truth be told, I liked that the Joker was used sparingly during the New 52. I feel like the Joker is used all the time now, or at least he was used a lot more for a while. I'm admittedly behind on pretty much everything DC, full disclosure. I'm kind of just jumping around, mostly focusing on Elseworlds and going back and reading stuff. But the Joker's daughter is not a character I ever cared for. At all. Never liked her. She just felt so... I don't know, people just wanted to have a jokery character around who was just kind of dark and twisted for dark and twisted's sake. You know, a good Joker story has a Joker making a point about society. She doesn't do that. She's just edgy. I don't know. I don't like the Joker's daughter. I just don't, folks. But there is a really cool cover art for the next issue of the Penguin swimming away from his exploding iceberg lounge with his little cigarette poking out of the water. Excellent cover art. You know, the gang war is not really going great for the Penguin. Batman is still cleaning up the pig mess with Dolatrons. We have Tiger Shark, the exotic animal smuggler and poacher, also getting in on the game. There's just so much going on. Catwoman's trying to help, but they're just not making a lot of headway. The Roman, of course, destroys the Iceberg Lounge. Batman can't work with the police anymore. The police and Batman are all kind of crippled. You know, they're all kind of crippled. Bard is a beat cop, and Batman, he ties up mobsters when he takes them out. But then, the police aren't allowed to arrest them. But Bullock is like, hey, the new commissioner and the mayor say we can't arrest them. They didn't say we have to cut them free of Batman's ropes. So they're just leaving them hanging around in the street, which I thought was pretty funny. We also see Jason Bard start to talk to known reporter Vicky Vale, and they kind of start up a relationship. And we also see Stephanie Brown start to become, spoiler, very interesting. Very cool. Batman goes to Japan to work with the Batman of Japan, who's currently operating in Hong Kong, to try to figure out why the Roman left Hong Kong, where he was such a successful gangster. Well, it turns out he was in a gang war with someone else, and then he got a letter that said Jim Gordon falls at so-and-so time, so-and-so night. The rest is up to you. So the Roman didn't plan Jim Gordon's fall. But if the Roman didn't do it, who did? And that's what this whole book, all 3 volumes, is trying to find out. Who set up Jim Gordon and set all these other smaller evil plots into motion? And why? Revenge on Gordon? To cripple Batman? What for? Also, we see the Japanese Batcave which has a huge, legally safe Godzilla in it. Only one row of scoots and Thaconizers on the tail. But it has that instead of the T-Rex, which I think is brilliant. Batman also meets Julia Pennyworth, the secret agent. Julia Pennyworth, Alfred's daughter. And she was going to take out the gang lord that Batman was going after. But she was going to take him out a bit more permanently. Yeah. But Batman turns out, or finds out from this gang lord. Sorry, this is a long video. This is a huge book. It's over 20 issues. Batman finds out from this gang lord that Falcone gave him his empire. He just has to kick up a gigantic percentage. 60% still goes to Falcone of everything. So this guy is like dishonored and blah blah blah. No one will follow him anymore. Catwoman's doing some robbing. Gets caught. It's not grand for her. But Julia Pennyworth is stabbed. Hard. And bad. And Batman takes her back to the mansion to help her recover. But, see, Batman's connection to Bruce Wayne isn't entirely a secret because of Batman Incorporated. Because the New 52 likes to have its cake and eat it too. But Falcone captures Catwoman. He wants to get his revenge. But then Pig shows up with a bunch of horrible Dollatron animal people to attack. Hoi hoi hoi. Cluemaster and his goons try to take out Stephanie, and they can't. She's kind of outsmarting them at every turn. She really gets it together. She's traumatized as hell, but she starts getting it together. We also see Batgirl and Red Hood in South America tracking down the info that will hopefully free Commissioner Gordon. And they fight this cool, like, centipede scorpion woman who had a really cool design. The art here is a bit more bug-eyed, pun intended, but we do get this beautiful page, and it turns out Cluemaster was able to get away with his crimes. He wasn't successful in his crimes, but he was able to get away with his secret identity. And then one night, Batman figured out who he was, came for him, and then when he saw that Cluemaster had a daughter, he let him be. Cluemaster was like, I promise, I'm done. I'm all my wife and daughter have. If you take me to prison, they're effectively going to end up homeless. They have no one else. Stephanie always thought it was kind of a dream, but it's drawn in a very cool dream sequency way. And she doesn't super trust Batman, Stephanie Brown. And, you know, who could blame her after that experience? But there are other reasons, too, which we'll eventually get into. So, yeah, Red Robin is doing a lot to take out Professor Pig, and Harper is starting to work with him. Eventually, she will get her Bluebird. She becomes Bluebird in this book. I kind of liked her as Bluebird, to be honest. She was a little redundant. She was basically just a second Tim Drake in a lot of ways. So I understand why she ended up not sticking around. I thought she had a super cool look. Like, if they released a figure of her, I'd probably get it. McFarlane, wink. But I get it. I understand why she kind of ended up working with Dr. Tompkins and stuff, Leslie, instead of being a crime fighter. Because from a real-world perspective, she basically was just another Tim Drake. She was redundant. Oops. Oopsie daisy. Anyway, James Gordon Jr., remember I mentioned him earlier? He does show up, and he offers to help Gordon escape. But of course, Gordon turns him down, but they do show that Gordon is very tempted by it. They draw it out. It's very well paced and interesting. Very, very much so. Cluemaster starts killing Stephanie's friends to kind of draw her out. Pretty insane. And then Arkham Asylum is really going to hell. The public thinks everything is fine in there, but it's being controlled by a literal monster, a cultist ghost. And then the Penguin goes to fight Falcone, is about to kill him, and then the lights flip on, and Jason Bard is there. Huh. Look at that. And so is Vicky Vale. And a bunch of police officers. Well, they have caught the Penguin, red-handed, about to kill Falcone. And they have a lot of dirt on Falcone because they're in one of his compounds and they're surrounded by evidence of his wrongdoings. In one night, they are able to arrest Penguin and Falcone, send them to Blackgate, and end the gang war. Incredible. Absolutely incredible work. And Batman, for a moment, is like, this Jason Bard, he is a trustworthy guy. But then he's like, hey, who tipped the police off that these two guys were going to be here? And he finds evidence that seems to imply, actually it seems to almost confirm, that Jason Bard is the one that tipped the Penguin off to Falcone's whereabouts. And the Penguin killed a lot of people. And Batman sees Jason Bard as responsible for their deaths. Yeah. Jason Bard manipulated them into being together, and it led to the deaths of multiple gangsters. But it ended the gang war. And it's the first tiny bit of darkness that you see in Bard. You see he's not going to be exactly like Gordon. And that's good. Because if they swapped out Gordon for someone who's effectively just a younger Gordon, especially in design, why does he look so much like Jim Gordon? I think they made him look like Jim Gordon in an effort to make us trust him. They should have made him look more unique, I think. I don't know, it's just... Anyhow, there's a lot with the Spectre and Batwing. Also, I'm always happy to see the Spectre. It's mostly Jim Corrigan we see, but the Spectre's there. And we see more with Batgirl and Red Hood trying to get evidence to exonerate Jim Gordon. And Batwoman joins them. She's not formally part of the family yet, but she seems to be trusted by Red Hood and Batgirl for the most part. So, hey, that's pretty good. Pretty good indeed. So, Red Robin and Harper, pre-Bluebird Harper, go to find an expert in nanotech who helped train Batman. Because Red Robin sees that these nanobots that are making people sick look a lot like his work. And we eventually do find out that it is stolen work from him. And we see that Joker's daughter is preparing Maxie Zeus to be the vessel for Deacon Blackfire. So much ghost stuff. So much ghost stuff. We see kind of a flashback to show us who Deacon Blackfire is. He's kind of poisoning people, making them susceptible to his manipulations, and eventually his own followers kill him when they see that he is too cowardly to fight Batman. Basically. His followers are all horrible, unfortunate victims. It really is rough. But we find out that whoever orchestrated the framing of Jim Gordon is also very much, pretty much using child slaves to make knockoffs. So that's not great. Gotta free the child slaves. And we see Killer Croc in the sewers. He attacks Jason Bard because he thinks Jason Bard's down there to harass him. But Batman's also there, so Bard, Batman, and Croc love the portrayal of Waylon Jones, Killer Croc, in this book, by the way. He really is great. He's pretty reasonable, all things considered. But, oh well. Oh well. He's willing to help Batman. This is a Killer Croc that is kind of insecure after his defeat at the hands of Bane during Forever Evil. But also a Killer Croc that is kind of victim of circumstancy, but has also earned his place as a villain, if you catch my drift. Like, he protects those who are lost and who have nowhere to go. But he doesn't always do that in the best way. Anyway, there's this man, and he has knockoff Mad Hatter tech in his head, which he uses to hypnotize Batgirl into thinking that Red Hood is the Joker and that Batwoman is James Gordon Jr., the two people who've probably hurt her the most. And you know what? Definitely hurt her the most. Woof. Huh. Anyhow, Red Hood, she and Red Hood kind of have a lot of tension in this book. A lot of tension. And I kind of like the Red Hood Barbara Gordon ship. I've thought on it for a while. You know, everyone loves her with Dick. But why do we love her with Dick? Is it because they've just been paired up romantically for so long that we just think that's the way things should be? She really has a lot more in common with Jason. Like, a lot more. They both have the most Joker trauma, more so than Batman. Batman's fought Joker the most, but he's done the worst to those two. Plus, they're also both fiercely independent. We don't really think of Batgirl as being as independent from Batman as she is, I think, because she's typically on good terms with him, unlike Red Hood. But she is an incredibly independent Bat character. Remember, she wasn't someone who was taken in by Batman and trained by him. Eventually she was, but she started out on her own. All the Robins kind of started with Batman. I mean, Tim Drake kind of forced Robin Hood upon himself, but he couldn't have done it without Batman. Barbara Gordon could have been Batgirl without Batman. Maybe not as effective as a Batgirl, maybe not as good as a Batgirl, but definitely she could have been. And as Oracle, running the Birds of Prey, look, Barbara Gordon is fiercely independent, and we don't give her the credit for that she deserves. But she works with Red Hood in this. And they work together so well. And I really liked their relationship in The Three Jokers, even though that is a non-canon story. People always act like it's canon, but it's Black Label. Black Label stories aren't canon. And it's a great story. Everyone says it sucks, but it doesn't. It's really good. It's really excellent, actually. And I have reviewed it, if you want to check it out. But Batgirl is able to kind of get some evidence from him. It's not everything she really super needs to get him off. But eventually she does. She wants to bring this guy in alive, but he is killed by somebody, and a ceremonial knife is left behind. You know, Batman, Bard, and Killer Croc fight literal demons in the sewer, and then Bard, after they're all done, tries to arrest Killer Croc because he found the remains of cops that were killed by him. And then Leo, Gordon's cellmate, while Gordon is very expertly quelling a prison riot, he's really clever about it. If you want to see exactly what he does, you got to read the book. Rex Calabrese is who Leo turns out to be. the Lion, the former main crime boss of Gotham, who's kind of reformed, sort of. He has these big metal teeth that he rips people's throats out with. They're like dentures. And he grew a beard, but because to cover up scars that would identify him. But now he's shaved it. Everyone knows who he is. And he was kind of exiling himself. He was thought to be dead. But he was kind of serving out a prison sentence to punish himself. He's reformed in a way, but not entirely. Because now, looking at him, now he's become like a god in prison. So he's not really super living the same life as the other prisoners anymore. So Gordon respects him a bit less. And one of the last things we see in that issue is Stephanie Brown actually taking up the mantle of spoiler and trying to stop her father's plans. But she doesn't just post his endgame or anything online, which is what she should do. But she's kind of playing her father's game in an effort to prove herself to him because he called her a disappointment. Daddy issues. I can relate to that, girl. Damn. But she's trying to kind of beat him at his own game. But she also doesn't want to post it publicly because she can't go to the cops because they're all corrupt as hell. And she has reason to believe that Batman is compromised, which we will get to eventually. But Batman snatches up the Roman, and as I said, figures out that he was not the architect behind everything. He finds the note, which I'm going to give you the full reading this time. Says, "You have been cordially invited to partake in the devastation of Gotham City. Jim Gordon falls in precisely 2 weeks' time. The rest is up to you." The rest is up to you. And then Batman gives a USB drive to Bard in an effort to clear Gordon's name. He's like, hey, if you take this, everything in it will clear Gordon's name. And then someone comes to attack Wayne Manor. Alfred tricks Julia Pennyworth into a safe room. And the man that shows up is Tommy Elliott, a.k.a. Hush. Hush is a villain created by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. And the main villain of my favorite Batman story of all time, Batman Hush. He is a villain that really only appears for the biggest stories. He is a villain that really only appears when there is a huge, complex, complicated plan. He's appeared at times that aren't that. I think he had some smaller appearances in War Games, if I remember correctly. And there is Heart of Hush, which I reviewed a while ago, where he's almost used as like a normal Batman villain, and it feels weird and it's not right. Sorry, Paul Dini. You're a great writer, but that wasn't it. And he injects Alfred with Scarecrow's fear toxin right through his temple, directly into his fucking brain. And we see Bard walk in the Blackgate, walk right past Gordon's cell, and free somebody else. Somebody dangerous. The Architect. And then we see Bard destroy the evidence that exonerates Gordon. We often saw him talking to his mom on the phone throughout these 20-so issues. Turns out he was never talking to his mom. He was talking to somebody else. Hush? Maybe. We'll find out in Batman Eternal, Volume 2. That's right, Jason Bard's a bad guy. Who? So, that's a lot. And there is like a character sketchbook and stuff in the back. showing like everybody's designs. So it was a long video, and I apologize for that. I know it was a lot, but it's like I said, this is the normal volume, but it's like an omnibus. It's a ton. So that is it for Batman Eternal Volume 1. It might be a bit before I do Volume 2. These are books I've read multiple times, but the videos for them are going to be really long. So I do want to kind of space them out. Next time I'll probably end up doing Moon Knight again, because I've been really into Moon Knight recently. You can tell I've been doing these more vigilante kind of people, you know, these more street level characters. Very pulpy stuff is what I'm feeling recently. So like Batman, Moon Knight, Spider-Man, The Shadow, characters like that are going to be getting the focus from me for a bit. But that is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.